Hey guys, this is Bre Communications, back again with another review, this time of the 2000 slasher, not really, but horror film, Cherry Falls. Now, this is not a very good DVD. This is how USA originally released the film, I guess, in the US, as in a double feature, and this is hard to find, and, well, I didn't know, I was busy, so I didn't able to get to check the DVD when I bought it a while back, because I was dealing with school and so forth, but I checked it now. And just look at that. I don't know if this is... Look at all those damn scratches. It's too late to return it. It's bought it online, but it doesn't work. So this is might as well just throw that in the trash, really. And that's really too bad. But I can make my own custom DVD of the film. This is a movie that, while watching it again, I have to admit it's not as great as I remember it being the first time around. It's still a film that deserves a better release in the United States. It got a decent release overseas, I think. It's pretty easy to come by overseas. But in the US, you got to deal with that. And you can say my luck wasn't very good. It's just not very good with that DVD. But hey, it happens. I didn't pay a super exorbitant amount of money for it, so it's okay. But anyway, Cherry Falls, I decided it was a perfect time to watch it again on Valentine's Day. And there are some things I really love about this film. I love the performances by the cast, Michael Biehn especially, Brittany Murphy, the late Brittany Murphy, who does a really amazing job in this, and you could just see her potential as a breakout star watching this film. I mean, she was really great. Um, Even Mohr, I liked him in this as well. Uh, and Candy Clark was fantastic, as usual. Very underrated actress. I loved her in The Blob, the 1988 Blob remake, and she was really good here as well. DJ Qualls, I liked him as Wally. Um, so there were a lot of really good, cast members and good performances. The screenplay I thought was pretty solid by Ken Selden, and the direction by Geoffrey Wright was okay. It wasn't great to me because I think he had to deal with some issues. I think the film was cut to shreds after it was done shooting. I think it was cut to shreds. Some of the editing in this is just atrocious. It really is, and it really hurts the film. And it doesn't have a good payoff, and it's got a really tame feel to it with its gore. It's really tame. I'm not talking like PG-13 or anything, but for a film of this type of caliber with this idea, which is a clever idea, which I really liked, the idea is that the killer is knocking off virgin. He's not knocking off virgins. Yeah, he's knocking off virgins. That's what's happening. He's knocking off virgins. The killer is knocking off virgins, which is a really cool idea. It turns the whole slasher movie trope on its head. Instead of killing the people who are having sex, he's gonna kill the people who don't get laid. And so I like that idea, but the film doesn't have a good payoff. It builds it up for basically having all these teenagers end up in a Pop Your Cherry ball, leading to a literal slaughterhouse for the killer, and it's a very tame scene. There's blood, but there's no limbs flying, there's no big amounts of gore. It doesn't have a payoff, and at least not a satisfying payoff, and that hurts the film as well. It also it deals with some characters, and it offs some characters in ways that are kind of lame, and I'll get into that later. But I do think it's a better film than what IMDb says it is, like a 5.0 out of 10. It's a much better film than that. It's just its unique idea alone of the killer going after the virgins is enough for me to put it higher than that. And the performance by the cast. And, there was definitely some good moments of really solid direction by the director. There actually was moments where Geoffrey Wright really did a really good job with direction. And part of me is almost like, I don't think maybe the way the film looks is necessarily his fault, because there are some ways it looks amateurish because of the editing. And so I think the editor, which they're not listing the editor on IMDb, I think that really hurt him. The editing really hurt the film, and the lack of a good payoff hurt the film as well. It wasn't as satisfying as it should have been. And for a film that's made for about 14 million dollar budget, it looks pretty good. It starts out really. It's a strange film, definitely. It's definitely unique, but it's not as funny as some of the critics make it out to be. Like on the poster, there's just all these quotes from people saying hilarious, laugh and like really funny, and I'm like, I chuckled a few times. There were definitely a few lines of dialogue that I did find funny, and there's the awkwardness of parents having. There's a meeting that Michael Biehn, the sheriff of the town, had. The town's called Cherry Falls, and they had this meeting with all the parents in the high school gymnasium to basically tell them that the killer is often kids who are virgins. So maybe we should encourage our kids to have sex, pretty much, so they don't die. And that doesn't end very well. It ends in like all the parents just start beating each other up. So, that there's some humor to be found in the film, but it's kind of like how I feel about Swimming with Sharks. Swimming with Sharks was given all these hysterical, hilarious reviews, and I'm like, it's funny at moments, but it's not a comedy. Cherry Falls is not a comedy. Neither is Swimming with Sharks. But that's just how I look at it as. And Cherry Falls isn't really your typical slasher either. It does have some slow moments. I think it can bore some audiences. If they were expecting just a straight up slasher film, they might be disappointed because the film does have a lot of dramatic moments. It does have some moments where it's trying to be more of a murder mystery, or not really a murder mystery, but kind of a murder mystery, but a mystery nonetheless about what happened to this woman named Laura Lee Sherman. And uncovering the truth type tale rather than just a straight slasher film. And some people might not care for that. So I just wanted to throw that out there right off the bat. If the film looks interesting to you, I would recommend you give it at least one watch if you can find it. But it's a film to me that I never heard of it until I first heard of the film in the Fangoria book. Fangoria's 101 Most Inherited Horror Films. And I think I might have done a review of this, and if I did, I was probably a little bit more enthusiastic about the film. But as second time around, I'm not as enthusiastic, but I still like the movie. I think at the end of the day, I think Cherry Falls is an above average horror film. And because I call it above average, is not detrimental to the film itself. For my ratings, that's pretty good. That's not mediocre. That's above mediocre. That means it's better than mediocre. I rate my films out of 5 stars. I don't rate them out of 4. So that means it's still a pretty good film in its own right. But I just think it could have been so much more. And it could have been a truly great film if the MPA didn't get involved and force some really bad cuts to be made, and also kind of ruin what the director intended. And it kind of hurt. It kind of is. It's kind of that feeling you get when you watch a movie when you know that the director's vision is not the way that he intended it to be, is not a good feeling to have. And I got that feeling watching Cherry Falls. I'm like, this is not what the director intended the film to be. I think he wanted to go all out. I think he wanted to go balls to the wall crazy with gore. I think he wanted to go crazy with the nudity. But for some reason, USA Network, Rogue Pictures, the producers just handicapped him. And he wasn't able to go as all out as he wanted to. Or he went there, but then the MPA said, you can't do this. So we had to severely cut the film back. And that really hurt the film in the long run. It took it down from a truly great film or a classic to just a solid, above average horror film with a really clever idea, but not the best execution. And I don't think I personally don't feel that that was how it was originally made. I think it was made, and the film was really solid in execution. Excuse me, I was just itching my foot for some reason. It's like my leg is fucking itching like crazy right now. I'm like, fuck. But anyway, this is off topic. But going back, I don't think I personally do feel, because I just see some shots and the way that they're edited, it just doesn't look natural. It doesn't look like that's that's the way that the filmmaker intended the film to be edited. It looks like it was just cut to shreds with a meat cleaver because this was too gory or this was too much, and we had to cut this out. A prime example of that is the end, which I'll get to later when I talk about the ending of the movie. But anyway, Cherry Falls. So the film, it opens up really weird, and it's not it's something that's, I don't understand why. This is a weird choice. There's this couple. One of one of the actors is played by Gabriel Mann, and he's with his girlfriend, and he starts acting like he's some interplanetary sex alien or something. He's talking about, I'm from Xanthos or some shit, and I'm here to make love to you, have interplanetary sex. I'm like, what the hell is this? It's a really weird way to open up the film, and it's not really funny. It's just one of those, like, what the fuck? And then what happens is a killer shows up and kills him, but it's mostly aftermath shots. That's another problem with the film. You don't see knives cut into flesh. You see some pretty brutal aftermaths, like a girl nailed to a tree and so forth, and you just don't see that money shot. And I really feel that there was some money shots, but they were just cut out of the film and are just rotted away on the cutting room floor, sadly, which is really too bad. So these two kids are murdered, and this causes a ruckus in the school and the community. And it's up to the small town sheriff, who is played by Michael Biehn, who I think does a brilliant job acting in this, Sheriff Brent Markin. What's interesting is that he initially wasn't interested in the film because after reading 15 pages of the script, he thought it was just another slasher movie. But his agent convinced him to keep reading, but being like the satirical approach to the genre, and decided to do the movie. And that's good that Michael Biehn did that. Or Biehn, or Bean. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. I love the man, personally. One of my favorite actors, but I always mess up with his last name. How to pronounce it. Michael Biehn. And Stephen Lang, I guess, was also slated for the lead role, but scheduling conflicts prevented him from playing in the film. He later admitted the only reason he wanted to do the part was to work with Brittany Murphy again. I'm glad Michael Biehn got the role, because Stephen Lang, he's okay. He's a decent actor, but I really think Michael Biehn was a really good choice, and he really did a fantastic job with this role. It's a very kind of an interesting role, too. And interesting enough, movie producers of Millennium Studios secured permission from Richmond Public Schools to film interior and exterior scenes at Thomas Jefferson High School during Easter break and the week following. Thomas Jefferson High School shared the building and the grounds at the time with the Governor's School for Government and International Studies, a regional school for gifted students. Well, the RPS failed to mention this and the fact that the two schools shared different schedules to movie producers. So the RPS also failed to mention that a movie would be filmed on the site to GSGIS administration. As a result, Cherry Falls started filming at the end of a school day, only to be interrupted an hour later when GSGIS students were released from class. To secure the set, doors had been locked and hallways had been blocked, preventing students from exiting. The confusion was eventually cleared, and the producers provided GSGIS administration with a synopsis of the plot and details about the timeline, scheduling, and deal with RPS. The school administration then included the synopsis in a letter to concerned parents. The synopsis failed to mention the satirical slant of the storytelling and instead provided the plot as a serious storyline. Parents then complained that RPS allowed porn movies to be filmed on school property. That was kind of funny. Yeah, that's kind of funny, actually. It's a satire, but but it's not laugh out loud funny. It isn't. It's a satire, but it's not. Maybe it's not necessarily as clever as it could be, but it's still pretty clever in its own right. I mean, the whole idea of the kids chanting after they figure out they're gonna basically have a party, a fuck fest. And I like that. There's actually a line of the principal even says, like, what? When this gets out, where kids are gonna have a fuck fest? And the sheriff's all like, Yeah, they want to stay alive. I like that idea. So, yeah, they're a fuck fest. I'm like, yeah, if they want to stay alive. So there are definitely some satirical moments in the film. And like I said, the movie opens up in the woods outside Cherry Falls, Virginia. Teenage couple with Rod Harper, played by Jesse Bradford, and Stacey Twelfth and Bre Blair. So I guess it isn't actually uh, Gabriel Mann plays Kenny Ascot, a different character. But he plays pretty much the male, kind of the male lead, other than Michael Biehn. So, and Jay Mohr, for instance. So this teenage couple, Rod Harper and Stacey, Rod talking about, I'm an interplanetary alien here to fuck you. It's really, really bad. They're getting romantic and not very romantic at all, because he tries to go straight for her cooch, and she's like, not having any of it. And then a black-haired, what looks like a black-haired female appears and then kills them both. And it's not much because you don't see anything. And that's what a lot of kills in this movie are, sadly, because of the fucking Motion Picture Association of assholes. So meanwhile in town, though, teenager Jody Markin, played by Brittany Murphy, the daughter of the local sheriff, is with her boyfriend Kenny, played by Gabriel Mann, who thinks it's time to go all the way. Jody gently says no, and then goes back home only to find her father, Brent, played by Michael Biehn, upset that she is out past her curfew. Brent and his deputies then begin to investigate the murders the next day. They see that the killer carved the word virgin into both victims. At school, Brent sees English teacher Mr. Marlston, played by Jay Mohr, in a surprisingly really solid acting performance by Jay Mohr. I'm really used to him being more of a comedic actor, and he delivers a decent dramatic performance in this. Who urges him to divulge more details on the murder to students and the town so as to eliminate the possibility of secrets. And I like the scene where Jay Mohr goes around the class and asks the classmates to speak their mind about what happened, about the murders and about the people who were killed. And one girl's like, "Oh, back in 7th grade, I told Rod to drop dead. I told him to fuck off and drop dead. I feel so bad." So that kind of thing is kind of, so the film definitely does have a sense of humor. And the killings don't stop, though. More people start showing up dead. The black-haired female kills another two Dude down! Holy shit, it's Who Framed Roger Rabbit 2, Cherry Falls. This is a serial killer killing all the tunes. No. Fuck. Another teen. Soon the black-haired woman, she kills another teen, Annette Duwald, who is also a virgin. And a really lame kill. She just opens up the door and she gets her head smashed in with the door. You don't see anything. It's a really lame kill. And you might see a little bit of the aftermath and quick flash cuts, or like a little bit of blood on her face. But it's really not much, and that's why it's a letdown in some ways, because it should be going there. If it's trying to satire horror slasher films and be this kind of over the top fun slasher movie where the killer's going after virgins instead of people who aren't virgins, and it's going after nymphomaniacs, it really needed to have more than just this kind of tame, especially tame for a slasher film approach. And I think that's the Motion Picture Association of America that's to blame for that. And even after the cuts, the film never even aired in the U.S. and never had a showing in theaters in the United States. Not even one. And I'm sorry, this movie's better than a lot of other movies that came out in theaters that year, especially in the horror genre. But that's another story. But anyway, so more people end up showing up dead. So concerned for the town's safety, Michael Biehn holds a meeting at the high school to tell the parents the nature of crimes. No students are invited, but Jody sneaks in with her friend Timmy. The killer appears and kills Timmy, but you don't see him kill him. Brittany Murphy, Jody, she opens a locker and his dead body falls out. And the killer then goes after Jody in a pretty tense sequence. I thought that was a well-shot scene. For the most part, some of the editing was pretty shitty. Once again, this really shitty editing, this quick-cut editing, rears its ugly head and really hurts the film. So she ends up escaping. She fights back and she kicks the killer's ass. Really, she cuts down this, like it's like a model shark. So she cuts it down from the ceiling and uses that a battering ram to knock the killer out. And her father goes after the killer, but the killer escapes. But she gives them a description of the killer's face. And so the word then gets out, though, that virgins are being targeted. And so and part of it was Timmy got some information. He relayed that information to the school newspaper, and he even said some quotes, like a kind of silly quote, like it was like he was mentioning the hymen. So he was like, "Holy hymens, Batman!" He's killing virgins. That's yeah, I thought that was kind of funny. He's like, "Holy hymens, Batman! They're killing virgins." So then what happens is the word is out, so the school's worst fears are confirmed when a large-scale orgy is planned outside of city limits. And even the students have, like, flyers up at pop your cherry ball in an undisclosed location, of course. But they figured out location as some dilapidated house somewhere in the woods somewhere. And after school gets let out, and there's actually like a news station outside. And after school gets out, all the kids start yelling and screaming, "Hail, hail, Virgin High! Drop your pants, it's fuck or die!" So I mean, they really do. The film is well written. It does have some really good, funny lines like that. But at the police station, Jody describes the killer to an officer who draws a composite. I guess it draws a sketch. I was saying earlier, Brett talks with his old friend Tom Sizzler, the high school principal, that the suspect looks like Laura Lee Sherman. The two are really nervous, and Jody listens in on their conversation. Later at school, Jody and Kenny reconcile, and later Jody learns from her mother about the tale of Laura Lee. That 25 years ago, Laura Lee was a high school loner. She claimed that 4 popular boys at school, including Brent and the high school principal, raped her one night. Her cries fell on deaf ears, and she left the city for the rural outskirts in West Virginia, where she was rarely seen or heard from again. After Jody discovers the truth, disappointed with the hypocrisy of her parents, she visits Kenny at his house. They talk, and Jody, being upset with her parents, tries to pressure sex on Kenny. He refuses, pushing her away because he would rather have sex with her because she wants to, because she actually loves him. But then she leaves, and they end things between them, finally. At least you think. But then later that night, the students gather in this large, dilapidated, old mansion. I think it was like something for like some old gentleman's club or something like that in the woods to indulge in their orgy. Pop Your Cherry Club. And Brent goes to the school for a meeting with Sisler, only to find the principal dead in his office with the words "virgin not" carved into his forehead, which I like that. But once again, it's the aftermath. And before Brent can react, he's surprised by the killer, who knocks him out and drags him away. Jody has refused to attend the orgy with Kenny, is out riding her bike, when she cycles by Mr. Mallerston's house, she witnesses him dragging a heavy trunk inside. Suspicious, Jody sneaks into the house and opens the trunk. She recoils as she finds the beaten, bloody body of her unconscious father inside. And I like the line of dialogue where, she asks, like, "What's in the trunk?" He's like, "I don't know. This trunk is heavy. What's in it? Your dad? Maybe mine." It's just very nonchalantly, just Jay Mohr, just pretty much just announcing to the whole world and the people who are watching the film that he's the killer. And when I first saw this, that was pretty surprising. And forgive me for spoilers. That's just how I roll, and I'll have spoilers in the description of this video. So I will have a warning there. But yeah, Jay Mohr is the killer. And it's actually handled pretty well, I thought. It was a good performance, too. He's pretty creepy. And so what happens is he knocks her unconscious, and then at the orgy, Kenny is about to have sex with another girl, that he was into, but he has second thoughts and leaves and finds Jody. He then drives around trying to find her, but he's puzzled to see her bicycle outside of Marlston's house. And downstairs in the house, Marlston puts on a wig and makeup to become Laura Lee Sherman. Marlston reveals that he is Laura Lee Sherman's illegitimate son, which is I thought, a really good, risky move for the film to make, but it was a good twist in the script. Then he asked Michael Biehn to retell the story of what happened that night 25 years ago. And that's a fantastic acting performance from Michael Biehn here. He reveals that him and three other guys, including, his friends, while he was very intoxicated, they did indeed rape Laura Lee. And the way that the film shot the flashback, it was not one of those, it wasn't super tasteless. It was just enough to get the point across and how awful the rape was, but it didn't really show. It wasn't I spit on your grave territory. It was that's one moment where the film was tame that I respected and I was fine with, because it was effective enough as it was, just the way that it was shot. And Michael Bihn's voiceover and his narration and his performance was just amazing. And he really felt for the guy. He technically did rape her, but that was not his will. He was blacked out drunk. His friends found him and literally just used his dick to fuck her. Literally, that's what happened. He was blacked out drunk. He might have been conscious, barely conscious at the time. He might have known what he was doing, but they were holding him up. And he was so drunk and incapacitated, he couldn't move, he couldn't do anything. And so, and when you're that drunk, your ability to reason is just shot. So he might have had a moment of integrity that this is wrong, but he didn't have enough willpower or even the bodily function, because he was blacked out drunk at the time. But he was probably opening his eyes and he knew what was happening, but he just couldn't do anything about it. And his friends literally had him by his arms, and he's already shit-faced, so they just literally used him to rape her. And I feel bad for him and I feel bad for her, and it's a horrible situation altogether. And then to make matters worse, Michael Biehn pours his heart out, says this story, gets this story off his chest to his daughter, gets this guilt off, and Kenny comes back and saves the day. But then the killer, he comes back, and Michael Biehn gets out of his restraints and starts beating Jay Mohr's ass in a very crowd-pleasing moment. You're like, yeah, kick his ass. Kick that cross-dressing dick's ass. Kick his fucking ass. And as you found out that Marlston, he became this deranged killer because he is the illegitimate son of Michael Biehn. It was really, we had the same color eyes, Dad. This is a really well-shot sequence. And, of course, Michael Biehn's like, no, that's impossible. And that's not actually what he said. He didn't say that's impossible, but it might as well have. And he realizes that, and then later he gets out of his restraints, and he became the killer because he was the illegitimate son, and Laura Lee beat the shit out of him when he was a kid. So it turned him into this killer, I guess. Wasn't the best explanation, but you kind of get it. And so he gets out of his restraints later, after, Marlston explains his story, and then he starts beating his ass, and then somehow Marlston gets the upper hand, and Michael Biehn's like, don't you fucking touch my daughter, you tried to kill my daughter, you fucking asshole. He's beating his ass, and it's a crowd-pleasing moment. Michael Biehn stabs the fucking killer in the leg with a little, like, surgical, instrument or something. There's a little knife, stabs him right in the fucking leg. And then Jay Mohr gets a hold of a axe, and while Brittany Murphy and Gabriel Mann, they escape out the back, Michael Biehn just gets slaughtered, and you don't even see it. He doesn't even get a worthy death. You just see Jay Mohr swinging the axe down a couple times, and he's dead. And I was like, that sucks. I like Michael Biehn's character. Yeah, he did a horrible thing, but I can kind of forgive him for that, because he was so shit-faced that literally what they did, they picked his ass up and used his dick against his own will to fuck her. It's not like he dropped his pants down and he was conscious when he did it. He was only half conscious. He really couldn't. There's nothing he could do. It was like he was raping. It was like, yeah, he was technically raping her, but in a way, he was being forced to rape her, and that's awful. So, and he gets that out. He gets that off his chest, only to fucking die. Boo! Bullshit! I hate that. I hate that part about the film. That hurt the film a lot too for me. I really like that character. I love Michael Biehn, and he fucking dies in the most bitch ass, wimpy ass, fucking lame ass way imaginable. He might as well have died off screen. That's pretty much what happened. He did die off screen. Saw an axe go down a couple times, and that's it. It's frustrating. And then Gabriel Mann and Brittany Murphy, they head to the orgy. And then to make matters even more frustrating, Jay Mohr shows up, the killer, and there's all these. His plan is coming to fruition. He was going to kill all these kids and take away their virginity. His plan for the beginning is to make it so people in this town were so afraid of being a virgin that the kids would set up this orgies, and then he'd come in and kill them all. And he comes in, and it's just, he's got a little knife. And he goes, it slices, and you just see a little bit of blood, and it's zoomed in real close, and that's it. That's it. It is as tame as fucking possible. There's no awesome gore. There's no limbs flying. There's no fountains of blood. There's no payoff. And that's another thing that's frustrating. So you have Michael Biehn dies in a shitty way, and then you have the thing that we're building up to has no payoff. And then finally, it looks like the killer has literally slit her boyfriend's throat. So I'm like, great. So now Brittany Murphy is gonna watch her boyfriend die too, just like she had to just watch her father die too. And then she finally uses the move that her dad taught her to flip the killer out the window, and he lands on part of the wood, part of the fence or something outside the house, and he's impaled on it. Some dumbass teenager comes in and takes his wig off. He wakes up. He's about to go after him, but then this lady cop, she comes in with 2 guns, shoots his ass, and it's nothing. She has 2 guns, and he shoots him, and every time you just hear the gunshots, and the camera zooms in right on his face. You see blood, but you don't see body parts flying. It's like you have 2 guns and you see none of the bullets hit him. And then you see a later shot afterwards where the guy who took the wig off, he's got Jay Mohr's hand, severed hand on the side of his head. Which I'm like, they must have done an effect where his hand flew off and landed on his head, but that got cut out. So I don't believe that they just set the hand on there and said, "Yay!" I don't. Maybe that's the case. I don't know, but that was kind of shitty too. I mean, bang, 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 and like nothing. You just see it zoomed in on his face and hear gunshots. And so then Michael Biehn is dead. Brittany Murphy goes in and is with her mom and pretty much lied to the FBI about her father. It's not like anything they could really do. I mean, yes, he technically did rape her, but you could tell them the truth that he was blacked out drunk and his friends pretty much forced him to rape this chick. It's not like he chose to do that. But no, they lied to the FBI to protect their father's, to protect the sheriff's image, or their family legacy, I guess. Brittany Murphy goes out, before she's about to go inside the car with her mom, Candy Clark, she sees I guess she hallucinates that the killer is still alive and just shows up as a ghost and then disappears for some reason. I don't know why. And then they drive away, and then for some reason the killer decides to not the killer. The director says to throw in this artsy-fartsy shot of the falls turning blood red, and then it literally adds nothing. It should have been in the opening credits. It just looks like he just threw it in there because I want to do that. I want to make the falls turn blood red. I want the falls to bleed. And you don't get any info about what happened to her boyfriend, Gabriel Mann. Is he dead? I know he was severely bleeding pretty badly when he was embracing her and they were hugging and kissing each other before the very end of the film. Is he dead? I don't know. I have no idea. So that's one part of the script I think could have been handled better. But yeah, overall, I mean, yes, I ranted a bit because I did really enjoy the film a lot. A lot of the film, a lot of the moments in the movie, I really like. Michael Biehn is great, and for him to die like that is fucking bullshit. It's fucking bullshit. It really is. And there was no reason for him to die in the first place. It was unnecessary. It wasn't worth the shock. It wasn't worth it. And it just felt like a punch in the balls. It was like, hey, you like Michael Biehn, he dies. It feels like that. I feel that way almost in every Terminator. Hey, Kyle Reese, he's gonna die. Hey, you like Michael Biehn, and The Rock, he's gonna die. I understand why he died in the Abyss because he's a villain, but man, Michael Biehn dies so much in almost every movie he's in. And that sucks because I really like Michael Biehn. But anyway, yeah, he delivers a great performance and he fucking dies. And doesn't even die in an admirable way. And then the Popper Cherry Ball is the most tame, lame, just a little bit of blood. And it's just, you don't see any nudity, you don't see anything, and it's such a letdown. But anyway, I really don't want else to say about Cherry Falls other than like I said, I like the film. I just don't love it, and I don't think it's a classic, and I don't think it's a great movie because of the fact that it has this build up, it doesn't have a good payoff. Michael Biehn dies like a bitch, and it just has some really shitty editing, and the ending just is one of those like, really, this is how you're gonna end the film type endings, like, we'll lie to the FBI, and then Brittany Murphy is having hallucinations of the killer, and we don't know whether her boyfriend's alive or not. So this film is definitely flawed. It definitely does have its issues. But all in all, I still enjoyed the film. I still found it to be entertaining. I still found the movie to have a lot of good things going for it. But man, the things that it didn't do well they did a really bad job, and they really were frustrating. And when you have a film that was doing things so well and to just drop the ball like that's even more aggravating to me than a movie that was just straight up shit all the way through. But anyway, it wasn't a straight up shitty movie all the way through, so there's definitely positives to be had here. So that's why I still would say I liked the film. I found the film to be entertaining for the most part, but man, there was some shit that I just did not like, and I don't need to repeat that again. I've done it enough. But anyway, I really don't know what to say about Cherry Falls, except I was gonna, if I could fucking speak. See, I'm so aggravated about Michael Biehn dying and the fucking bullshit. No payoff with the cherry, pop your cherry ball. I can't speak. If I was to rate the film out of 5 stars, I'd give it 3.5 out of 5 stars. Above average. Could have been great. But as it is, it's just a good but not great film. So anyway, thanks for watching my review, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. And I'm about to check out a movie called Lover's Lane, which I think is going to be a total piece of shit. So wish me luck, and I will see you guys later. See ya.